Good morning, good afternoon, depending upon where you're at here in the United States or anywhere in the world. Welcome to Power of Business and the Power of Business Friday chat that we hold here the first Friday of every month. We're glad to have you with us today, and we think you're going to enjoy this conversation. For some of you, it may be a topic you haven't thought about much. For others of you, you may be a member already of a co-op of some type, or you're thinking about a co-op. But I have the pleasure today to be with Heidi Demars, who is with a colleague here in Bismarck, Mandan, North Dakota. And Heidi is the marketing coordinator for the BisMan Food Co-op. And so we're going to talk about food co-ops here and what they are. So Heidi, tell us, what is a food co-op?
Well, a food co-op is a retail grocery store owned by its members, and there's all different types of co-ops. There's consumer-owned co-ops, which is what the food co-op is. There's worker co-ops, there's producer co-ops, but today we'll talk specifically about consumer co-ops.
Okay. And the BisMan Food Co-op. Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. So this started about 3 years ago. It was an informal meeting at a truck stop. A group of people got together with the interest in starting a food co-op. And one thing led to another. We formed a steering committee, and this core group of people has stuck together over the last 3 years to organize the community around what we're trying to do. And that's basically to access more local, fresh, and organic foods.
Okay. Why do you need a food co-op?
We need a food co-op because, and I can speak from my experience, it started out very selfish. I was running to a lot of different places in the community to get the types of foods I wanted to eat. I was meeting one person in a parking lot for fresh organic produce. I was going to one store for grass-fed beef. I was going to another store for some of the bulk items I wanted. And I found I was not alone in that. There was a lot of other people running around town trying to get the foods that they wanted. And that's really how this all started, is wanting more convenient access to the types of foods that we wanted to eat.
Okay. Now, you could have, though, been entrepreneurial and started a business, but you chose a co-op.
Yeah.
Why select the co-op method?
Yeah, and we've been asked that a lot. Why didn't you just start a natural foods grocery store? The cool thing about cooperatives is that it takes a community, and currently we have close to 700 member owners of the BisMan Food Co-op, and it's just a really, really neat way of getting everybody involved. So as a member, you have a voice and you have a direction in the co-op, and to me, getting a community together like that has been the most fun. It's been so exciting. It's taken a while. Generally, co-ops from the startup phase to opening take anywhere from 3 to 5 years. But I think that's where the good stuff is, when you can get people involved and get them to sign up, become a member, and really raise their voice, for what they care about. I think that's important.
When you say members, are these community members? Are they producers? Because you would have people who want to sell stuff.
Yeah.
What's the mix for your co-op?
It's regional. There's people from all across the state who are both consumers and producers, because producers have to eat too. And so it's really been a nice mix of people, not just from the Bismarck-Mandan area, but all across our region.
Okay. So you mentioned 700 some or 600, nearly 700 members. How do you feel it's going, and how long have you been trying to get this membership going?
Yeah, so we're following a plan from Cooperative Development Services, and it's basically it's called 4 cornerstones in 3 stages. And so you go through this process. It's basically a roadmap of how to go from organizing a community and educating them on the benefits of a food co-op to actually opening your doors. And so it's been a process for certain, but it's a way where everybody's voice can be heard. And so we had to go through a feasibility phase, because we realized, this is something we think is a great idea, but we really had to test the community on that. And so we had a group come in that was involved with NDSU to study the community demographics and to see if Bismarck-Mandan would be a good fit. Because there's buying clubs, that's a little bit different, but an actual retail grocery store that will have, a general manager and paid staff. We really had to see if that need was there, and we found from our feasibility study that we had positive results with that. And so from that point on, we really felt like it was okay to move forward, okay to start selling memberships to the community.
So it sounds like when you say, it sounds like from what you're saying that there is some information out there as to some certain guidelines of size and everything else. Where did you get this information?
It's called the Food Co-op Initiative, and it's a national nonprofit that works with startups just like the BisMan Food Co-op, and they have a number of resources on their website. And the very first resource that I printed off was about 80 to 90 pages thick, and it sat on my nightstand for weeks and weeks, and it was basically how do you start a food co-op. And so this was shared with our core group. And basically, we've learned a lot along the way.
Okay. Is that information available to anybody?
It is, yep. And there's about 120 other startups like the BisMan Food Co-op opening in the nation. So co-op developers are saying that this is kind of the second wave of food co-ops that's taking place. The first took place in the late 60s, early 70s with that kind of counterculture. And now this is a second wave that they're seeing because there's so much interest in where our food is coming from.
Well, let's just take Bismarck or North Dakota. Did you have other examples here that we have going on?
Yeah, well, actually, Prairie Roots is another startup in Fargo. They started about a year before we did, and then Amazing Grains is a food co-op in Grand Forks that's been open since the late 70s. We've talked to them extensively. However, they started out as a buying club, so they started a little bit differently than we did, and so that's when we really turned to the Food Co-op Initiative and Cooperative Development Services, which is a consulting agency specifically for food co-op developers, and really reached out to gather resources. But we are by no means trying to recreate the wheel. There are other startups, like I mentioned, that have opened in recent years who we really draw a lot of information from.
So you get in contact with them or call them? Or
Yeah, on a weekly basis. And co-ops are structured to follow 7 cooperative principles, and the 6th principle is cooperation among cooperatives, which is really, really unique because I could call up any startup or any other co-op for that matter in the nation and request information on financials, their blueprints for size of store, staffing, procurement of goods. I mean, it's just a really neat way of doing business. So I speak with somebody across the United States generally once a week to get information. So.
No, I have to ask because we're in North Dakota, and are we behind the curve, ahead of the curve?
Oh, yeah, we're behind. We're behind, Glenn. Let's not pretend, but we're getting there, and that's what's really important. We only have one open food co-op right now, but as I mentioned, Fargo's working on their food co-op. Their progress, I think they have over 750 members, and so they're right on track with opening. And then we've got the co-op here in Bismarck. So, and our neighbors to the east, Minnesota, I think in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area alone, they have about 14 or 15 co-ops. So, and granted, their demographics are different, but we're seeing things come to the state now with, new producers, young farmers starting up. There's a movement happening.
Okay. You mentioned the producers.
Mm-hmm.
This is a consumer co-op.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any producer co-ops, or do you know what's going on in that arena?
I think there's one that's being formed, and it's just a way to get producers together at one table to find out what they can do together, meaning it's a lot easier for hospitals and state institutions to purchase from one vendor. And so by organizing producers together, they have a little more clout and a little more ability to be able to do that.
So they have a reason for co-ops just as much as on the consumer side of it and stuff,
Exactly.
running a business.
Exactly.
So you wouldn't need to be necessarily a producer to start a consumer co-op because you have a whole different focus.
Exactly, and I started.
You're not a producer?
I am not. Nope, I'm a consumer. I do not farm. I tinker in the garden a little bit, but that's about it. But that's another neat thing about co-ops. It's a way for a diverse group of people to come together and organize and have their needs met.
Okay. What have been some of the challenges?
Yeah, so very early on, securing vendors, that's a challenge. We are in a service gap here in Bismarck, meaning that the natural foods distributor goes as far west as Billings and as far east as Fargo, and so they really saw us as a market that wasn't very attractive. So early on, we had to overcome that obstacle by telling them, here's the square footage that we plan on having, here's how many members we plan on obtaining before that point. And they followed our progress this whole way. And so they agreed that once, we're able to open our doors, they would commit a truck 2 times a week. Human resources have been a challenge. We've needed somebody to help us with our website, with our brochures, and we're working with a very limited budget in terms of marketing. So we really had to tap people in the community to help us and really get us to where we needed to be able to market the co-op in a way that would reach a wide audience. So vendors, human resources, capital, that's always an ongoing challenge. Co-ops are different in that they're member owned, so a lot of the equity for the co-op comes from the members. And to this point, we've been selling a vision. We don't have a site yet. That's been another challenge, is that the market in Bismarck is so crazy right now that everything moves very quickly. So, we'll see a building that we think will fit, and we learn that it's already, under lease negotiations. And so we've had to move fairly quickly in terms of when we, find a place we think might be appropriate, going through those steps to get an inspector in there and to take a look. And so there's definitely been challenges, and we're not out of the water yet, but we hope to have some exciting news here in the next couple of weeks for our members. So.
Okay. And for those outside of here, when you say spaces at a premium, because in many parts of the country that isn't, we're in the capital city and we're on the edge of the North Dakota oil boom, and so retail, commercial space.
It's nuts. We heard from our commercial real estate agent that 50% of the deals that are made and the spaces that are leased happen without it even being listed. So what we tried to do is get ahead of that curve and really connect with the right people that we needed to connect with, and be kind of tapped into what's happening with retail spaces.
So what's the future? What are your milestones down the road here?
Yeah, so we needed to get to 600 member owners invested at $200 a share before we could move forward with securing a lease with contingencies. We met that goal in August, which was really exciting. We were told by the co-op consultant that we're working with that we are the fastest growing startup in the nation, which is incredible. But with that, came some challenges too as well. So the next point is to secure our site. And as I mentioned, we're in the process of touring some spaces right now, and then to finalize our capital. Okay. So we'll reach out to investors, members that want to provide the co-op a loan, secure the rest of that financing, and then we'll move into hiring our GM. And that will be actually a national search. We want somebody with food co-op experience who can come in and really help take this co-op to the next level.
GM, General Manager.
General Manager, yep.
Okay. Any tips you'd like to offer to somebody who's thinking about this?
Gosh, prepare yourself. It takes time. And I think in this day and age, we're so accustomed to instant gratification with 24-hour, everything is just, people want it now. It's the overnight shipping, it's the, stores being open 24 hours. We're so accustomed to having our needs met immediately, where this process, it will take some time, but it will be so worth it. And I've met some of the most amazing people along the way, and it's great. It's well worth it. But yeah, just be ready, be prepared. And I think the core group is really important. Some people have the idea, but really reaching out, testing the waters, and those people will come forward. I think if it's meant to be, the right people at the right time will be there. But just don't give up. It's so worth it.
Okay. If people would want to contact you about your experiences and other ideas and thoughts that you might offer, where could they get a hold of you?
If you go to the co-op's website, it's BisManFoodCoop.com. My contact information is there with email and phone number.
Okay. And you don't mind if they...
No.
As you said, co-ops help co-ops, right?
Sixth principle, cooperation among cooperatives, and I'd be happy to talk to anybody about my experience.
Okay. Well, Heidi, we want to appreciate you coming here and giving us this little quick insight about co-ops. It is an option. We talk a lot about business structures, but we rarely ever talk about this idea of a co-op. So you're bringing us something different. That's something, I wouldn't say new to us, but there may be other members out there listening, or other people who are watching today. Want to just remind you that this is the Friday chats. We do these on the first Friday. However, in January, that first Friday would be January 2nd. And we just don't expect there to be too many people who are going to want to chat that day. So our next chat is going to be January 9th. It will be coming to you from Nebraska. Betty Mannon for Bears and Woods is going to be talking to you about going from a hobby to being an entrepreneur, or taking that leap. Taking that leap is a big thing, and we have a lot of hobbyists out there who sometimes think about it and just don't know and stuff. And so we would encourage you, and of course you can stop at our website, powerofbusiness.net, and log in to get more information. You can also log in to get reminders about it, log in for get information about our newsletter that we put out on a monthly basis. We do a blog, we have some articles out there. Really encourage you to check out powerofbusiness.net and do it on a regular basis. And on the screen you have in front of you some of the people that are trying to keep this organized and keep it rolling and keep it going. You can contact any of us at any time, and we would be glad to help you. And with that, I think I've at least hit my 15 minutes, probably a little bit more. We want to wish you a happy holiday season, and take care. Bye.